In Mesilas Yesharim, Path of the Just, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto points out that a truly righteous person is obligated to pray and find merit for even the transgressing Jews of his generation. A classic example is from this week's portion, where the Jewish people, shortly after the greatest moment in history, the revelation of Mount Sinai, sinned, the terrible sin of worshiping the golden calf. God was so angry, he wanted to destroy the Jewish people, and Moses prayed, and Moses pleaded. And Moses said, God, it's really, in a way, it's your fault, because you gave them all that gold and silver. You commanded them to leave Egypt with wealth. And even at the splitting of the sea, when the Egyptians drowned, the gold and silver of the Egyptians' ornaments came up, and you presented it to the Jewish people. So if they wouldn't have had all this gold and silver, then they would not have sinned. So God, in a sense, you set them up for it. What we find here is that Moses is like a defense attorney on behalf of the Jewish people. It's a beautiful concept, actually, because if we're feeling angry and wronged by another person, a technique to help us in dealing with it is to imagine in our minds as if we hired a defense attorney to defend the other person. And they would come up with all kinds of arguments, sometimes even solid arguments, to prove their point. And this will help diffuse our anger and our disappointment. I might add that sometimes it might be difficult to do that mentally, to act as a defense attorney for the person who offended us. So sometimes it might be a good idea to speak to a third person and ask the third person to show you ways to justify the actions of the other person. Not necessarily that they're right, but at least to understand where they're coming from. That would diffuse our anger and ill feelings towards them. Have a fabulous Shabbos.